can I just start off by saying I am not a clinician. I have never been involved in the NHS. So I'm a bit of a fish out of water here, really. So hopefully I can now tell you why I'm here. First of all, people always ask me this as well. There's a bit of background on me. I am from the northeast, originally a place called Saltburn, if anybody knows where that is, which is just above Whitby. Yeah, thank you. And I've got a degree in economic history from Liverpool University. So what am I doing here? What do I know about what you do? The answer to that question is, for 17 years, I was National Director or Chief Executive of Heart Research UK, and which was a national charity that was founded by a heart surgeon and was there to make surgery safer. And we funded millions of pounds worth of medical research, and we specialised in things that helped surgeons, and we had grants that were very innovative, very, very clever, that used medical technology. And what happened in the end was that I noticed that we were spending millions of pounds on things that had been raised by people like you for our charity, on medical research, on medical technology, and it was going nowhere. So that made me a bit cross, really. I thought, I'm spending other people's money on medical technology. It doesn't seem to go anywhere. And so I hated the waste. And I grabbed the opportunity when I heard of a thing called the Medical Technology Group. And so that's when I became the chair of the Medical Technology Group, and that's why I am here today. So there you are. That's the reason I'm here, is about medical technology. So as I said to you, this is a brand new one for me. It's not a world I'm used to, but I am delighted to be here and to talk to you, and to be able to hear what you've had to say over the last few days, and see what your conference is all about. At the time, I did wonder why Ellie had asked me, because I know little about wound care, I know little about ulcers, problems, whatever it is. And I suppose, like many people, whenever I heard about ulcers, I thought, oh, Henry VIII used to have those. Didn't seem to stop him finding women to marry in the end. But, that was the first thing I thought about, because he was the famous person who was known for it. And but what I do know now friends and family I've seen lately have had these problems, especially my brother. My brother is in a wheelchair. He can't do anything below his waist. And he caught himself on something, turned into an ulcer. What a mess that man was. It was awful. Yet the people that he turned to help him didn't really help him, to be frank with you, which is why I got a bit of a crusade about it in the end. And it was because he went in his wheelchair, and they gave him, they dressed his wound for him twice, then gave him some wound dressings and said, go and sort it out yourself. And I was a bit disappointed, to be honest with you, in that. And to cut a long story short, it took an awful lot more after that to get his leg as it was. So in other words, what I'm trying to say is, I don't know what I'm doing here, but it was Ellie that realised that I did know what I was doing here, and what I could help today. And so that as chair of the MTG, perhaps I can give some words and views to pass on to you that will give you hope and patience more for things in the future. So, Medical Technology Group. You probably haven't heard of that either. Ellie's on it, by the way. That's how she knows me. And it was set, it's a lobby group, really, that employs professional people to put us in touch with members of Department of Health, NHS bodies, ministers, parliamentarians that can help improve access to medical technologies. We've been going for over 20 years. I've been chair for 16 years. I know somebody else be doing it by now, but having said that, nobody wants to do it, so there you go. And we bring together, as a group, key players in medtech, and key players are industry, patient groups, charities, patients, clinician. And in our group, we bring them all together so we sort of have a good grasp of what's going on from all sorts of aspects and all sorts of views in medical technology. So we're unique, absolutely unique group. And now we are one of the groups that NHS organisations and major players want to talk to. And that's because we look into the reasons why medical technology is not being put into the NHS very quickly compared to other countries, especially and especially within the NHS. And so we now are the go-to people we look into it, we research it well, we then do reports on it or go to the right people and explain things, we make good recommendations, and above all, we're positive. Now, that's been a bit of a crusade for me because, if you want to influence somebody, the last thing you want to do is keep on criticising them, telling them what a load of rubbish they are. So what you do is you say, look, we've got a problem here because, for example, there is a technology that's not being adopted. And so we've analysed that and said, look, can we recommend this? So that's why we are a force to be reckoned with in medtech. And now most organisations listen to us, and we have quarterly meetings with NICE, quarterly meetings with the Medical Tech Directorate, who David Lawson was with us last night, who is the head of that. Health Watch, the regulatory bodies, all these people now turn to us first to find out things, which is it's brilliant. But the biggest attraction, and I'm under no illusion about this, I can't keep on saying it's because we do wonderful things. It's because we've got patients involved in our group. And that is the big thing. Because they themselves do not have the mechanisms to talk to people. Unless I've watched today about, you can have stories and these people who have power within the NHS organisations and DOV don't meet patients. Therefore, they don't know what they want. They don't know what's better for them, whatever it is. And that's a big thing that the MTG has taken up. And I find it amazing that this is a bit blunt, but you're fine, that's where I am. The NHS is there for patients. If it didn't have any patients, there would be little need for the NHS. It would be a prevention service. So patients need to be talked to, and which is why Ellie's asked me today is how did the medical technology get into doing stuff for patients. And as you know, my theme today is how medical technology can enhance patient-centred care. So the first thing I did, I thought I better find out what patient-centred care is, because. And this is the best explanation that I could find. I won't go through it, but you're more than capable of reading it. So, but the things that I found that were good in that definition was dignity, respect, and involving. And really, if you think about it, patient-centred care, it's in the name, isn't it? That's what it should be. It should be patient-centred care. And to me, that means putting patients at the heart of their care and treatment and working with them and the people who care for them, the people who look after them, to make sure that the patient gets the best outcome. That's what they go there for. They want the best outcome. And for us in the MTG, we wrote a big report about this, but we said, what medical technology and the treatment that people have, it means getting them back to work, caring and loving their families, and having the best life that they can have with their condition, or without their condition if you can make it better. So in the end, let's face it, what we're looking into as a medtech group is just doing what everybody wants. They want to live healthier, happier, longer lives. And if medtech can help, why is the NHS not in a position to give you that med tech so that you can achieve those things? On these points, as you can see here, it's all common sense, really. And to be honest, I don't think people should be told what patient-centred care is. They should know. For goodness sake, if everybody's been a patient, everybody know somebody who's been a patient, and clinicians and the Department of Health, NHS, surely know that this is what patients want. You'll find that, I don't know how to put this, but throughout this presentation, you'll hear various, obviously, my opinions, things that annoy me, my bugbears. And here's the first. This is one of the first, is that I find it very difficult to understand why you have to have courses for people in the NHS to explain to them what patient-centred care is. Surely you must know what patient-centred, why are you a nurse? Why are you a doctor? Why are you a physiotherapist? All these people, you should know what patient-centred care is. But within the NHS, it should be the same as well, in the people who are in those organisations and making decisions and making policy and things. So that's a big bugbear of mine, is that I find it awful that you have to have a course to tell you how to do it. And as well, patient-centred care should not be an aspiration. It should be something that you hope for or you want. It's something that, it should be there. And the other thing that I find interesting is that why does the NHS or the various parts of the NHS think that patients should know what they want? How the heck do they know what technologies are available to them? What knowledge have they got apart from what they've gone through? What can they ask for? But they don't give them this information to take any value or make a choice. And that's very wrong, that patients don't have a choice. So, what's the next thing? Where's it gone? What have you got? I can't see what you've got on there. Has it gone to something else?
I've got medical technology.
Ah, right.
2 paragraphs.
Yeah, I've got something else on this screen. Sorry. Sorry.
That's all right, just got to board.
There we go. Yeah. So, there we go. We've gone to patient-centred care. So here let's get on to medical technology. Right, what is it? And this will take a longer time to read for you. So, I mean, I'm not going to go through it again. And like I say, you can read that while I'm speaking, I'm sure. But since becoming with the Medical Technology Group, I have been amazed over and over again about medtech, from the most complicated devices such as an artificial pancreas, an artificial heart, all these things, and just the smaller things, such as, I don't mean smaller things, but I mean literally small things, wound care. So that's the breadth of medical technology that people don't appreciate, that it goes from a plaster all the way up to something that will replace your pancreas. So it's amazing. So that's what it covers, medical technology. And this is why, as well, that people don't know about these things because they don't realise it's medical technology. And also, they don't realise how much a difference medical technology can make in treatment and care. And having said that, being involved over these last 16 years, I can see how it is becoming more important, medical technologies. Obviously, the more you know, the more things that are discovered, the more things that you can do. It becomes part of everyday life and part of the NHS even more. And the pandemic, the dreaded pandemic everybody blames everything for, actually was a big driver. Because during the pandemic, medtech was utilised. It was used more. They managed, I was amazed that in the pandemic, because you'll hear later on how hard it is to get medical technology into the NHS. During the pandemic, it was there. Stuff was all the barriers to medtech being introduced into the NHS were gone in the pandemic because we were in a crisis, and therefore they needed it because it treated more people. It saved lives, and so they realised that they had to use medical technology quick. And when you think about it, during the pandemic, you could see a clinician sooner because of telehealth, because of less face-to-face or fewer face-to-face things. There was a greater choice of providers. There was remote monitoring. There was digital results given to you. You know, you didn't have to go. This is the thing I find very funny, that for example, in hearts, which is my speciality, that somebody who lives in Land's End has to go to Bristol to be told that they don't have to come anymore because they're cured. Well, isn't that mad? You know, and that happens over and over again. So in actual fact, the pandemic did utilise digital health so that thing didn't happen, because obviously you couldn't be face to face. And so it just showed then that medical technology can be put in quicker. But as soon as we came out of the pandemic, it was back to same old, same old. The same barriers are there. The same people don't want to change. The same people don't want to use technology. And that's where the MTG comes on, because we are the people that are saying, you know, you need to be doing this. You need to be listening. You need to be introducing it, because it saves money for the NHS. It improves quality of life for patients, and it makes people better. So that's why there is a need for the MTG. But medical technology, just going on a general sort of comment, it is fascinating, truly fascinating, because not only is the great breadth of it, but it's what you can do in medical technologies. And recently, so I have a lovely life. I go and talk to ministers. I go and talk to the Secretary of State for Health, which it's a bit I think it's quite good being able to do that and meet the people. But what I do have access to is seeing firsthand some new technologies. Not many, but every now and then I get to see it. And one of them the other day, I went to, there's a thing called IDAP. I don't know whether anybody's heard of that at all. And that IDAP was developed by NICE, by the MHRA, by MedTech Directorate, to try and find pathways for medtech to come sooner into the NHS. And I'll go into that later, why it's hard to get into the NHS. And they showcase these technologies. And one of them, it was just amazing. It was using ultrasound to literally liquidize cancer in solid organs. And it did. I watched this film, but also it simulated it on something. And it did. It liquidized it in front of you. Now, you think of the impact of that. You can go in with cancer and walk out without it. But the big thing that they also found was that once it was liquidated, literally liquidated, because I said, well, what happens to the liquid? And they said, your body then clears it away and it's gone, and all the nasty things about cancer go with it. But what it did do, because this cancer was being liquidized, it released a protein, and that protein alerted the immune system, and the immune system all of a sudden thought, oh, there's something there I don't like. And having thought about it, I saw 3 more bits like that before I got to this bit. So in other words, it meant that the immune system then killed itself, all that cancer within that person. Now, I find that mind-blowing. If you think about it, that your body immune system then gets rid of the cancer for you. So that was a knock-on effect that they didn't know about. Then, on the same thing, there was a really simple thing, and to some way, it's not amusing. I don't know what the word is really, but I was talking to this chap. I said, so what's your technology? He said, well, the thing that you put on your finger to monitor oxygen in your blood and things like that. He said, it doesn't work on black people. Do you know that? People with pigment in the skin, it doesn't work. And it doesn't work as well. So not only is it bad, it's discriminatory for a start. And this man had thought about it, and he thought, well, surely there must be another way of getting that information. And so he came up with something that went in your ear, because there's no pigment in anybody's ear. So they take the oxygen measurement in the ear. So it means you can use, they call them earbuds, all sorts of things. You can listen to music, but you can also have ones that will take your oxygen as well, which again is, in its own little way, is mind-blowing. So that's what I'm trying to say to you. Whatever I do hear about, sometimes it's brilliant. And it's a lovely world to be in. And I just wish that these things, now that those things I was telling you about just now, it'll take years for them to come in. Why does it take years? It's just ridiculous. I just thought you might be interested in where the medtech buck is spent. So this is this was given in this earlier this year by the medtech. It's in the medtech strategy, and as you can see, I have highlighted dressings for you. Yeah, 4%, and and I thought one thing I did notice. I thought, oh, it's more than radiology. You wouldn't have thought that, would you? Because especially over the new developments I've been talking about, where there's remote monitoring and all the digi-health that you've got. But yes, 4% is of medtech is spent on, I suppose, your world. I suppose I'm trying to say. But the thing that occurs to me is that yes, this is a solid thing you can see. Out of X billion pounds that are spent, this is how much goes on each of it. But that's how medtech is measured. But shouldn't it be measured not on cost alone? It should be measured on the value to the patient and what quality of life it gives to a patient. Because years ago, the lesson that they learned is when MRIs first came out, they were, really, really expensive. And they weren't bought by the NHS. You remember people used to have fundraising campaigns to get, MRIs in hospitals. It's because the NHS itself thought they were too expensive. What they didn't think is that in year one, it's going to cost me £1 million, or cost them £1 million. But over the 10 years that's going to last for, whatever it is, that is insignificant over those years. But the NHS, as you will know, they get money every April, and that's how much you can spend in a year. And that is one of the great barriers to why medtech is not introduced into the NHS so quick, one of them. So, there are lots and lots of barriers to overcome to get the NHS well and truly into the 21st century. And the greatest one is culture. And I'm afraid I am addressing people like you in this as much. The NHS, people working in the NHS, as you know, and I've been watching things that the same sessions that you've been in, people don't like change. They just don't like it. How often is it we've always used that? And that's the dressing that we use, or that's whatever it is. And that is a massive, massive barrier to medtech being introduced into the NHS. Another one is, as I said, the money aspect. But having said that, I can tell you after reading a report yesterday from the NHS that the NHS has never in its history had as much money in it as it does now. There has never been as many staff as well, and there's never been as many more people in training. So, why do we have these issues? So it's one of the things they're contributing is that we need a change in culture. And it isn't all money. It's getting people to adapt and getting managers to use their staff better, use their rotas better, use whatever it is. So all of this is attributing to why technology and why treatment is not as good as it could be. Another one is if you would think, wouldn't you, like this cancer treatment I was telling you about, or even the thing on the end of the finger, that will take years to get there. And it's because there are so many pathways into the NHS. There's not one single pathway for medical technology to go through. And they all want evidence. How you tell me why that's better, but you can't do it in the NHS because they won't let you gather the evidence. So you tell me, how do you get the evidence if you can't do it on patients? Things have got to change, but that's one of the things. So that's why one method for getting different sorts of medtech in there is that it can be taken up by a clinician. And a clinician can use it, then encourage other ones to use it, and surreptitiously you sort of get the evidence. But there are so many pathways into it, and as an MTG, we are campaigning with the people in the know. You need one single simple way for a technology to get in there, and it needs to be as soon as possible. The other barrier is staff. Not enough staff or training for staff. That's the big thing. In some cases where you do actually get a technology that is in there, but nobody's trained anybody on it, how to use it. So again, you know, the resources that we have are not being used properly. And one of the things that comes out of this is that this does not give either the clinicians or the patients a choice. And that's bad. You know, you should be given, you should have the means to do things. And also, if a patient decides that they would like to go a different route, and could they suggest it for themselves because it helps their family or the way that they can live, again, they are not actually given a choice. So I'll go back to what I'm here for. Does medical technology enhance person-centred care? Right. The answer, yeah, definitely, it can. But the caveat is that it can revolutionise care and change lives, but patients and carers have to be listened to as well. Because clinicians don't automatically know everything. There may be a different thing that would be better for a patient, so you need to listen to them. And you need to educate them so that they're worth listening to. MedTech can certainly revolutionise the outcomes. And there are so many choices across so many disciplines, but the specific question is answered. Yes, it can enhance personal-centred care. Take your wound care. I said, this is not my world. I asked Ellie, and other people when I've been here. What are the things that what medical technology have you had that's helped you recently? And what I've been told, it's improved dressings, compression wraps that users can do themselves, telemedicine, so you don't have to travel. You can more readily talk to your clinician, and even a small thing, just sharing photographs properly. And Ellie was telling me that she's done is it a booklet or some video about how people can share the photographs, because you can't take it. A patient actually knows how to do it. So it's enabling people to use the technology as well. But if you remember, the words from the definition of patient-centred care that I picked up on was dignity and respect. This is another hobby horse of mine. But that should be a given for patients, dignity and respect. And we can all of us can give examples of how patients have just not got what they should have got. And also their dignity has been compromised, really. And I was talking to a young girl who has a stoma bag. And do you know what colour a stoma bag is? Black. Try wearing a white dress with a black stoma bag. Things like that. So patients need to be treated as people who have to live. They have to go to work. So again, this is another thing that is not taken into consideration in the NHS as a whole, that you need to give people dignity. You need to give them the respect that they deserve. Involving, that's where was the other word I used, and that's where decisions about a patient's care that are made at clinical level and in the wider NHS as well should have input from those who are directly affected. It shouldn't just be who you think should. Its patients should be asked. And if this technology came about, what would you think about that? Actually, I don't need it because I can do this or whatever. People make decisions on behalf of people all the time. But again, you have to have the knowledge to be able to do that. So patients need to be told about medical technology. Which brings me to asking the right people. Now, from me, it's patients and clinicians as well should be asked on a pure practical level. And here you are, this is something, as you can see, came from the Health Education Patients Forum. And this is what they say. And it's something that, it's actually, well worth believing and taking on board. And it just made me think in sort of another parallel is how often when you're using Word or Excel or something like that, you get used to using that program, and then all of a sudden Microsoft decided that they're going to change the way that Word goes. So they do an update, and you think, well, who the hell decided that? I was quite happy with Word the way it was. I was quite happy with the way Excel. It's exactly the same for treating patients with patient technology as well. They don't ask the people, Microsoft don't ask people to change things, so this should be happening. The same thing happens to patients. Ask them first whether they need a change. Don't take that, that you're the one that knows. Ask people whether they change. But it also prompts the questions is if you're going to ask, who do you ask? A patient is a patient. They're not all the same. They're not homogeneous. They're all different. And when I was with Heart Research, we did have a lot of patient input. And I always found, it was always the person who shouted the loudest, or the one that had a grudge, or the one that something had happened to. So if you're going to involve patients, you've got to find the right ones in the first place to do it. Because what you'll do, and I've been on committees and things where you've got the person who is the one that is once. It was especially with somebody who'd had a heart transplant and something had not happened. And he was representing all heart patients. But all they knew about was having a transplant. So most of the stuff in heart disease wasn't applicable. But that's who they got as their expert patient. So, you've really got... Sorry, did you want... Oh, sorry, right. So that's why, you need to get the right people. And you have to have them with a range of experiences, and you have to have them trained. Some people have never been on a committee. You have to show them. And this is what's happening in the NHS now, is that people are being involved in their decisions, and it's happening with NICE. They've all got these whole systems which we've helped with to get people involved in what they are doing. I'll go through this quickly because I've only got 5 minutes. So I want to tell you a nice story, actually. But we stand behind, this is a report that we did, one of the reports. We firmly believe that patients need to be involved in how their treatment. And now we've managed to convince most people that we spoke to the Secretary of State, well, the people who make the sort of make the decisions, and then the NHS and everything. And so it means that we're now getting more medical technology. The other thing, before I go, I just wanted to say, and I wanted to ask a question, or whether this could come up in questions, or I ask the question in the question time, if that's all right. Best practice. This is a real thing that bothers me to death. Why isn't best practice disseminated across the NHS? I don't understand it. Because I'll give you one concrete example. In the ICS, where I live, one former group, they're all made up of clinical care groups, that's how you come to be a ICS now. In Wakefield, they've got amazing productivity and performance. Leeds is awful, yet nobody in Leeds has gone to Wakefield and said, why? People have got to be proactive and want to be better and want to do things better. But I do want to go on to this, since I've only got 5 minutes. MedTech Awareness Week. Once a year, we have this thing on the House of Commons terrace where we get patients in, we get the major players in MedTech and in the NHS. We've had all sorts of people there. I just want to tell you about one very quickly. And it was about this Steve Powis. He used to be one of the ones on the podium during COVID, medical director of the NHS. He said, I just want to tell you something here. This is nothing about medtech. It's just a nice little story I wanted to tell you. And he said he was the one that went on behalf of the government to the first injection in Coventry when the woman had the first vaccine. Yeah. And he said to the nurse, "Can I have the vial?" He said, "Yeah, it's going to be thrown away." So he had the vial. So he went away with it, put it in his pocket. He threw it on the back seat of the car. It was in his briefcase. And all of a sudden he thought, this needs to go somewhere. So he went to a museum and said, "Would you like this?" Oh, said, absolutely brilliant. We'd love it. Yeah, of course we'd love it. Anyway, so he went, picked it off out of one of his pockets, went in, and this woman had white gloves on, a cushion. He said, that's just on the back of my car 5 minutes ago. That was a really good, interesting thing to talk about. Then there was another bloke who came who was a knee surgeon. He'd had a knee replacement. And he said, I first had a bad knee when I got my first cap. I thought, oh, you, first cap. Turns out he had 34 caps for England at rugby, and he'd done his knee in by doing that. So again, Medical Awareness Week, that was the other one. Then the next one, there was a chap called Whitty, Matt Whitty, who again is part of the Department of Health. And he was saying across, because it's on the Thames, this thing, he said across there was Faraday. He found induction. Electrical induction. He said, and in medical technology, he said, now we are using induction in medical technology. And he said what it was, they've got this, if you've had your hands crushed, they put this thing around here, which uses induction, takes all your pain away. Amazing. And they're going to be in ambulances. So there was another amazing thing to learn and to hear about. But the next one was this girl here, which is my last thing to tell you about. This is Charlotte. Charlotte was tiny, and she bounded up onto the stage, and she said, "Do you know?" She said, "I now can go to sleep at night, and know I'm going to wake up and not die." And I thought, God, what a terrible thought, you know. She said, all my life, my mother and father and I thought, am I going to wake up in the morning? And it's because they could have a hypo or whatever it is. And it's because she that first started with an insulin pump, well, a glucose monitor, an insulin pump, and then a fully artificial pancreas. And this girl, I mean, she was so happy. It was lovely. And she was uplifting. And this is because people like her and Diabetics UK, because these are the people you need to talk to, because they've got patients on their books, they're the ones who need to know, have said, this is what patients want. This is what we have to get. And when ideas came to them, they actually took them on board. So now this girl lives the life that everybody else has just because of her technology. And I thought you'd like to know about that. And when I asked her, I said, what do you do for a living? She said, I'm a wrestler. That girl was a wrestler. I thought, how the hell can you do that? But anyway, but the thing, this is what I'm trying to leave you with, is that medical technology is wonderful. It can help with patient-enhanced state as long as you listen to patients, you listen to people like you, and it is used at the right time, the right place. And if you're going to introduce it, you give money that goes along at the same time so it can be introduced, and you train people to use it. So yes, the answer is yes. And I hope that I've somehow, I mean, it's nothing to do with wound care, all of this. I just hope you've just opened the world of medical technology to you and how exciting it is. And you can tell all these little stories I've told you about the file and all that sort of thing, just to say how wonderful medtech is. So, well, thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for having me. And I hope I've helped a bit.